everyone, and welcome back to English Podcast. I'm Jennifer, and I'm here with David. How are you doing today, David?
I'm doing great, Jennifer. Thanks for asking. And hello to all our listeners out there. Whether you're just starting to learn English or you're at an intermediate level, we're so glad you're here with us today.
Absolutely. Today, we're diving into a really important topic: how to learn English by yourself and through solitude. It's a topic that's close to my heart because I know how challenging it can be to learn a language on your own.
Same here. Learning a language is no small task, especially when you don't have a teacher or a class to guide you. But the good news is, it's totally possible to make progress on your own. You just need the right strategies and mindset.
Exactly. And that's what we're going to explore today. We'll talk about different methods, tools, and habits that can help you learn English effectively, even if you're studying alone.
But before we get into the details, let's talk about why learning English by yourself can be so powerful. When you're alone, you have the freedom to go at your own pace, focus on what interests you, and really immerse yourself in the language.
That's so true. And solitude can actually be a great teacher. It forces you to rely on yourself, which can build confidence and independence in your learning journey.
But of course, it's not without its challenges. Without a teacher or classmates, it can be hard to stay motivated, correct mistakes, or practice speaking.
Definitely. That's why it's important to have a clear plan and use the right resources. So let's start by talking about the first step: setting realistic goals.
Yes, goals are crucial. They give you direction and help you measure your progress. But they need to be specific and achievable. For example, instead of saying, "I want to be fluent," you could say, "I want to learn 10 new words every day."
Great example. And it's also important to break your goals into smaller, manageable tasks. For instance, if your goal is to improve your listening skills, you could start by listening to one English podcast episode a day.
Exactly. Small, consistent efforts add up over time. And don't forget to celebrate your progress. No matter how small, it keeps you motivated.
Another key aspect of learning English by yourself is creating an immersive environment. Even if you're not in an English-speaking country, you can surround yourself with the language.
Absolutely. You can change the language settings on your phone, watch movies or TV shows in English, and even think in English throughout the day.
Thinking in English is a game changer. It helps you internalize the language and makes it easier to speak fluently. You can start by describing your daily activities in English, like, "I'm brushing my teeth" or "I'm making breakfast."
That's a great tip. And speaking of speaking, let's not forget about pronunciation. It's one of the trickiest parts of learning English, but there are ways to improve it on your own.
Yes, you can use apps like Duolingo or Babbel, which have pronunciation exercises. Or you can record yourself speaking and compare it to native speakers.
Recording yourself is such a good idea. It helps you identify areas where you need improvement. And don't be afraid to repeat words or sentences multiple times until they sound right.
Repetition is key. Another thing to consider is grammar. Some people find it boring, but it's essential for clear communication.
I agree, but instead of memorizing rules, try to learn grammar in context. For example, read a short story and pay attention to how sentences are structured.
That's a much more natural way to learn. And speaking of reading, it's one of the best ways to expand your vocabulary and improve your comprehension.
Definitely. Start with materials that match your level, like children's books or graded readers. As you improve, you can move on to more challenging texts.
And don't forget about writing. It's a great way to practice what you've learned. You can keep a journal in English or write short stories.
Writing also helps you organize your thoughts and express yourself more clearly. Plus, it's a good way to track your progress over time.
So, to sum up this first part, learning English by yourself is all about setting goals, creating an immersive environment, and practicing consistently.
And remember, it's okay to make mistakes. They're a natural part of the learning process. The important thing is to keep going and enjoy the journey.
Alright, let's dive into some practical tools and techniques you can use to learn English on your own. One of the most effective ways is through language learning apps. David, what are your thoughts on apps like Duolingo or Memrise?
I think they're fantastic for beginners. They make learning fun and interactive, which helps with motivation. Plus, they're designed to teach you vocabulary and grammar in small, manageable chunks.
Absolutely. And the best part is, you can use them anytime, anywhere. But I'd also recommend combining apps with other resources, like YouTube channels or podcasts, to get a more well-rounded experience.
Good point. YouTube is a goldmine for English learners. You can find channels that focus on grammar, pronunciation, or even casual conversations. It's like having a free tutor at your fingertips.
Exactly. And speaking of podcasts, listening to them regularly can really improve your comprehension skills. You can start with slower-paced podcasts designed for learners and gradually move on to ones meant for native speakers.
That's a great way to challenge yourself. And don't forget about subtitles. If you're watching a video or listening to a podcast, turn on English subtitles to help you follow along.
Subtitles are a lifesaver, especially when you're still getting used to the rhythm and speed of spoken English. Another tool I love is flashcards. They're perfect for memorizing new vocabulary.
Yes! Apps like Anki or Quizlet let you create custom flashcards, and they use spaced repetition to help you remember words more effectively. It's science-backed and super helpful.
Spaced repetition is a game changer. It ensures you review words just before you're about to forget them, which strengthens your memory. But let's not forget about the importance of speaking practice.
True. Speaking is often the hardest part when you're learning alone, but there are ways around it. For example, you can use language exchange apps like Tandem or HelloTalk to connect with native speakers.
That's a great suggestion. Practicing with native speakers not only improves your speaking skills, but also helps you learn slang and cultural nuances. And if you're shy, you can start by sending voice messages instead of jumping straight into calls.
Good idea. Another option is to talk to yourself in English. It might feel silly at first, but it's a great way to practice forming sentences and thinking on your feet.
I love that. You can describe what you're doing, narrate your day, or even debate with yourself about a topic. It's all about getting comfortable with the language.
And if you're worried about making mistakes, don't be. Mistakes are how we learn. The more you speak, the more confident you'll become.
Absolutely. Now, let's talk about reading. It's one of the best ways to expand your vocabulary and improve your grammar. What kind of materials do you recommend, David?
For beginners, I'd start with children's books or graded readers. They use simple language and are designed to help learners build their skills. As you progress, you can move on to blogs, news articles, or even novels.
Great advice. And while you're reading, try to highlight or write down new words. Then, look up their meanings and use them in sentences to reinforce your learning.
That's a solid strategy. Another tip is to read out loud. It helps with pronunciation and makes you more comfortable with the rhythm of the language.
Reading out loud is so underrated. It's like killing two birds with one stone. You're practicing both reading and speaking. Now, what about writing? How can learners improve their writing skills on their own?
Writing is a bit trickier because you don't always have someone to correct your mistakes, but you can use tools like Grammarly to check your grammar and spelling.
Grammarly is a lifesaver. It's like having a personal editor. And you can also join online forums or social media groups where you can write posts or comments in English and get feedback from others.
That's a great way to practice in a real-world context. Another idea is to keep a daily journal in English. Write about your thoughts, experiences, or even your goals for learning the language.
Journaling is such a powerful tool. It not only improves your writing, but also helps you reflect on your progress. And speaking of progress, how can learners stay motivated when they're studying alone?
Motivation can be tough, especially when you hit a plateau. One thing that helps is setting short-term goals and rewarding yourself when you achieve them. For example, treat yourself to something you enjoy after completing a week of consistent study.
I love that idea. And don't forget to track your progress. Seeing how far you've come can be incredibly motivating. You can use a notebook, an app, or even a simple checklist.
Tracking progress is so important. It reminds you that even small steps add up over time. And if you ever feel stuck, remember why you started learning English in the first place. Reconnect with your why.
That's such a great point. Your why is your anchor. Whether it's for travel, work, or personal growth, Keeping that in mind can help you push through the tough moments.
All right, let's wrap this up with some final tips and strategies to help you master English on your own. One thing I can't stress enough is the importance of consistency. Even if you only study for 15 minutes a day, it's better than cramming for hours once a week.
Absolutely, consistency builds habits, and habits lead to long-term success. And don't forget to mix things up. If you're always doing the same thing, like just reading or just listening, you might get bored or hit a plateau.
Good point. Variety keeps things interesting and ensures you're working on all aspects of the language: reading, writing, listening, and speaking. For example, you could spend one day watching a movie in English, another day writing a short story, and another day practicing speaking with a language P.
That's a great approach. And speaking of movies, don't underestimate the power of entertainment. Watching TV shows, movies, or even YouTube videos in English can make learning feel less like work and more like fun.
Exactly. Plus, it exposes you to real-life language, like slang, idioms, and casual expressions, which you might not find in textbooks. Just make sure to actively engage with the content, pause, rewind, and take notes if needed.
Active engagement is key. Another tip is to find a community of learners. Even if you're studying alone, you don't have to feel isolated. There are so many online forums, social media groups, and language exchange platforms where you can connect with others who are on the same journey.
That's such a good idea. Being part of a community can provide support, motivation, and even accountability. You can share your struggles, celebrate your wins, and learn from others' experiences.
And don't forget to celebrate your own wins, no matter how small. Learning a language is a huge accomplishment, and every step forward is worth acknowledging. Whether it's mastering a tricky pronunciation or understanding a movie without subtitles, give yourself credit.
Well said. Another thing to keep in mind is patience. Language learning is a marathon, not a sprint. There will be ups and downs, but as long as you keep going, you'll get there.
Patience is so important, and remember, it's okay to make mistakes. In fact, mistakes are a sign that you're trying and pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. They're an essential part of the learning process.
Absolutely. So, to summarize, here are the key takeaways. Set realistic goals, create an immersive environment, use a variety of tools and resources, practice consistently, and stay connected with a community of learners.
And most importantly, enjoy the journey. Learning English opens up so many opportunities, new friendships, career advancements, and a deeper understanding of different cultures. It's a gift you're giving yourself.
Couldn't agree more. So, to all our listeners, thank you for joining us today. We hope you found these tips helpful and feel inspired to take your English learning to the next level.
If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, English Podcast, for more content like this. And if you found this video useful, please share it with others who might benefit from it.
Also, check out our previous videos for more tips on improving your English. Whether you're a beginner or an intermediate learner, we've got something for everyone.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode. Keep practicing, stay motivated, and remember you've got this.
Bye for now, and happy learning.